Some women do not vanish to be cruel. They vanish to return to themselves. And yet, to the man who once touched her essence, her silence feels like exile, her absence like judgment. He calls it punishment. But what he truly meets is his own reflection, the void within him that her mystery once disguised. There is a particular kind of woman who does not yield to explanation. She lives not to be understood, but to be felt. Her allure is not in the curve of her body, nor the sweetness of her words, but in the quiet depth that cannot be possessed. She is not chaos, though she may awaken it. She is not withholding, though she will not hand over her soul to the unready. In her, the man glimpses something that both seduces and terrifies him, the mirror of his own unconscious. Carl Jung once wrote that, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed, but transformation is rarely gentle. When the feminine mystery collides with the masculine ego, something ancient ignites an archetypal tension that tears open the illusions. Each holds about love, power, and worth. At first, he believes he adores her, but what he truly adores is the way she feels against the hollow spaces of his own identity. Her presence gives his psyche shape, her attention gives him warmth. Through her gaze, he feels seen perhaps for the first time. And in that seeing, he mistakes reflection for love. The feminine mystery acts like a mirror to the unintegrated masculine. Where he has ignored his own inner life, she appears to embody it. Her intuition, her sensitivity, her depth, they awaken the forgotten anima within him. Yet, rather than integrating that energy, he clings to her as if she were the missing half of his soul. He projects his unlived emotions onto her, painting her as savior or temptress, light or destruction. To lose her, then, would be to lose himself. And so, he clings not to her essence, but to the illusion she represents. But the woman who carries self-awareness cannot stay in that projection forever. She begins to feel the weight of his unconsciousness pressing against her. Every moment she tries to love him, she feels herself disappearing, bending to his ideal rather than her truth. Her soul whispers of freedom. Not the freedom of detachment from love, but the freedom of returning to wholeness. And so, without warning, she withdraws. Not as punishment, not as a tactic, but as survival. Her silence becomes her sanctuary. This is the moment where the masculine psyche begins to unravel. He feels abandoned, betrayed, cast out of paradise. He interprets her distance as cruelty, her calm as pride, her mystery as manipulation. He cannot see that what pains him is not her absence, but his confrontation with his own emptiness. She was the mirror that made him forget it. Now, without her reflection, he must face the unlit corridors of his own inner world. This is not punishment. This is the beginning of initiation. In Jungian terms, he has met the shadow, the part of himself he repressed beneath, the armor of control and logic. The feminine, in her mystery, has summoned it forth. Her detachment becomes the alchemical fire that burns away illusion. His ego resists. It calls her cold. It calls her distant. It calls her unloving. But what he truly fears is the collapse of the illusion that love can save him from himself. There is a scene symbolic, yet familiar. A man stands in the center of an empty room, staring at the door she closed behind her. Around him, echoes of her laughter, her softness, her chaos linger like perfume in the air. He reaches out, but nothing is there. In that silence, he feels something ancient, the void he has spent years avoiding. He finally hears it, the quiet ache of his own unacknowledged longing. He wants her back. But what he really wants is the part of himself she awakened. The woman, meanwhile, moves through her own dark night. She too feels the pull, the ache to return, the guilt of being the one who left. But somewhere deeper, she knows, to go back would be to betray the awakening she has just begun. The feminine path is not one of comfort. It is the descent into shadow, the dismantling of every role she once performed to be loved. Her silence is not absence, it is alchemy. This is where the feminine begins to separate love from dependency, presence from performance. She no longer seeks to be understood by the one who cannot meet her depth. She does not explain her quiet. She does not justify her mystery. Because to explain is to make herself small again, to translate the language of her soul into something consumable. So she lets him misunderstand her. She lets him call it punishment. And she walks on. From the Stoic perspective, this moment mirrors the act of letting go of attachment, not as indifference, but as sovereignty. To love without control, to give without expectation, to detach not from feeling, but from possession. She learns that her energy, once freely given, must be directed inward, towards self-respect and discernment. And in doing so, she becomes untouchable, not because she is unreachable, but because she is whole. Meanwhile, the man's psyche trembles. Without her presence, the mask of confidence begins to crack. He confronts the boy within, the one who never learned to hold himself, who mistook being seen for being loved. He may seek distraction, new faces, new thrills, but none of it soothes the wound she awakened. Because the mystery of the feminine cannot be replaced, it can only be integrated. He begins to sense that her absence was not rejection, but invitation. An invitation to descend into himself. The masculine, when he accepts the descent, transforms. He begins to listen to the voice he silenced, the voice of intuition, feeling, humility. He realizes that the woman's mystery was not an obstacle, but a mirror to his own soul's depth. He begins to see her not as something to decode, but as a living symbol of the unconscious, beautiful, unpredictable, sacred. And only then does he understand. Her withdrawal was not a punishment. It was mercy. Because the feminine mystery is not here to soothe the ego. It is here to awaken the soul. Her silence invites him to meet what she cannot carry for him. Her distance demands his inner expansion. And her disappearance becomes the crucible in which his fragmented self begins to unite. But not every man accepts this path. Some remain angry at her silence, condemning what they cannot comprehend. They seek loud women, predictable love, surface comfort. They avoid the mirror, and so they remain divided. Yet others, the few, step into the fire of awareness. They lose her and meet themselves. And in that loss, something sacred begins to rebuild within them. As for the woman, she walks not away, but through grief, through longing, through the shattering of illusions, until her love no longer seeks reflection, but resonance, until she no longer needs to be seen to know that she is. Her mystery remains not as a game, but as the essence of the divine feminine itself, the part of life that cannot be explained, only experienced. And so, when he looks at her again, perhaps years later, perhaps only in memory, he no longer feels punished. He feels humbled, because now he understands. Her silence was a mirror. Her absence was the teacher. And her mystery was the gateway to his own awakening. The feminine mystery, when embodied consciously, does not destroy men. It dismantles illusions. It brings them face to face with the depth they were taught to fear. And in doing so, it liberates both. Because a woman who no longer fears being misunderstood